Hi there, this is Solitary Ronan from Solitary Ronan Films, and welcome to another random review. Today's random review is quite random. It's Best Before Death, a documentary by Paul Duane from 2019. This is on the Anti-Worlds label, which is the sister label of Indicator. They only have 6 physical media releases. They last released a batch of 3 in September 2020. They have negative spine numbers, which is I kind of find quite interesting. So you have your negative anti-worlds and then your positive indicators in your shelf. So this is a documentary. Again, it looks like an Indicator release. You have the nice booklet as well as the disc. You have the reversible artwork. So this is about artist Bill Drummond, who, if you are of a certain age, especially in Britain, you might remember the KLF, who were kind of a dance music partnership. The Justified Ancients of Moo Moo and Last Train to Grand Central, I believe, were some of their hits. Not my kind of thing, but I do remember them. They famously burned £1 million at one point in their career. But this is Bill Drummond in his 50s, and from 2014 he decided to go on an 11-year world tour, stopping in a city a year and doing several tasks until the year 2025. So this was shot in 2019. The film crew stayed with him, or did some shooting over 2 years. I think Paul Duane actually said it was only like a couple of weeks every year. And the 2 cities he's in is Kolkata, India, and Lexington, North Carolina. Each of these cities have meaning to Bill Drummond. Looking at my notes, he's still got Spain, Turkey, Uganda, Malaysia, Iceland, Papua New Guinea, and he finishes up in Jerusalem in the Holy Land and Damascus in Syria in 2025, apparently. And so, for example, Calcutta he went to 20 years earlier, went to a temple, and that resonated with him, so he came back. He was born in South Africa, but pretty much lived most of his life in Scotland. His father was a Presbyterian minister, so he did a swap with an American minister, so they went to North Carolina for a period of time. I think it was a year or something like that. So that's why he chose Lexington, North Carolina to go back to on his world tour. It's called the 25 Paintings World Tour because he got into painting, but not in a kind of fancy way or to make money particularly. So his paintings are usually just like words, like as you'll see in whatever the images are, you know, man making bed, because he didn't want to, you know, become one of those painters where people in Manhattan would pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for his work. He never explains through this process why he's doing this. It's just something he has to figure out. You do get the feeling sometimes that he's running away from something. It's kind of noted at the end of the film is dedicated to his nephew who died in 2014, and he starts his world tour in 2014. So it kind of jumps between India and the United States, and he does these tasks. So he bakes a cake, or bakes 6 cakes. He shines shoes. He makes a bed from wood that he sources to the local community, and then he raffles off that bed because he says that the art is the dreams that will happen in the bed and other things that will happen in the bed. That's the art. What else does he do? I've completely blanked what else he does. He does a cake, shines shoes, makes a bed, he makes soup, and he finds a local band or artist to cover one of his songs from his earlier life. And while he does this, he has a photographer with him that takes pictures and things like that. Strange enough. What a strange thing for a photographer to do, take pictures. So she's documenting it. And again, he never really explains what he's doing. He's trying to find something. It's an interesting film because at times he does come across as being a pretentious arse, and at other times he's quite endearing and you do feel like he's actually searching for something. For example, the 6 cakes he bakes, sometimes with help, sometimes on his own. He then draws on a map a circle and then takes the 6 cakes and just gives them to people, but obviously it's kind of a human psychology experiment to see who would actually take a cake. So you see him in North Carolina, for example, just wandering the streets, going up to people and say, "I've baked you a cake." And of course most people just look at him very funny. Well, put yourself in their shoes. If somebody knocked on your door and said, "I've baked you a cake," a complete stranger, would you actually take it? As one of the Indian women say, it's like, it could be poisoned or you want to kidnap me. I guess that's just the way of the world nowadays. Nobody will gladly take a cake off a complete stranger. So it's kind of interesting. Obviously he gets strange looks when he tells people, "Oh yeah, I'm just building a bed from scratch with my own hands." Well, not your own hands, obviously he uses tools. And then he raffles it off to somebody in the community. He has this thing, the beginning of the film, again, if you can see one of the images I've got, that's the title, Best Before Death, and it is very funny when the photographer's trying to get him right in the middle of the A, and it's like, over a bit, no, over a bit the other way, no, over a bit, no, the other way, because he's painted himself so he can't actually see what's going on. And that was actually shot in a canal under Spaghetti Junction in Birmingham, which is a series of motorways. And another thing he does, because the expected or life expectancy of male members of his family is 72, he bought 72 pairs of jeans at one point. Not at birth, I don't believe, but they're shrink fit. So every year, certainly in this tour, his world tour, he likes to jump into a body of water, not a body of water, that's a completely different film, a body of water to get him to shrink fit. So at the start of the film he strips off, puts on his new jeans and jumps into this canal, but as he says, there's lots of like glass bottles down here, and of course the director wants him to submerge completely in this canal in Birmingham, which is probably not the safest thing. But then he also does it in the Ganges, which is beautifully shot, the sunset, but also the Ganges is probably not the healthiest river. I just had images of a crocodile getting him. So that's something he does as well. He likes to make sure his jeans are lovely and wet so they shrink fit when they dry. It's a fascinating little film. It's about an hour and a half. It's about an hour and a half long. The extras are very good as well. There's a commentary with Bill Drummond and director Paul Duane from 2020. Remember 2020? And then we have a 43-minute interview entitled "What is Film?", where Drummond interviews Duane for 40 minutes, strangely enough. And again, that's about what is film, what's about documentary, what is art, because at some point there's a guy who's driving him around and he wants to deliver cakes in North Carolina, and he asks him about his musical past. And Drummond's like, "How did you know that?" And the guy's like, "Well, the director told me." And it's like, all right, so the director wants you to ask me in front of the camera, so it looks as though you're just asking me, and it's like, I'm not going to answer that question. So it's all about, obviously, documentaries you have to take, as Bill Drummond says, you kind of make a pact with the devil when you agree to do a documentary, because it's not, obviously it's heightened because there's a camera there. There's deleted scenes and alternate footage. There's 100 minutes of that. There's the short films from the Best Before Death project. So there's a 3-minute film, there's 2 minutes of 23 seconds with Bill Drummond in a wig shop. There's 3 minutes of Big Mike and the Bike. There's 3 early dramatic works by Duane. Short films, Ink from 1988, which is 11 minutes. Blind Alley from 1992, which is 10 minutes. And The Dublin Mystic, because I'm not going to try and pronounce the Irish translation of that, from 1994, which is 32 minutes. There's a trailer, and there's image galleries, and again you get the standard indicator anti-worlds booklet. So it's a really interesting film. Again, because I'm that way inclined, I've bought all the anti-worlds, I just haven't watched them all yet. That was the first one I just picked out, and I was really pleasantly surprised. It does kind of fly by once it gets started, because you are fascinated by these little tasks that he does, and the idea of doing them in like 25 different countries or 25 different cities over a span of years. It's quite fascinating. What does it all mean? Who knows? But it's certainly a rather interesting journey. So thanks very much for watching this video. Let me know if you have seen Best Before Death and what you think of it. And just for completion, it is spine number -5 or -5 for anti-worlds. So thanks very much for watching. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, saying apologies for the complete randomness of this random review, but the clue's in the title.